I'm Antonio Centeno, the founder of Real Men Real Style. Today, I'm going to be giving you a quick tip for getting ahead in life. All right, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. By doing that, these videos will come right to you. In addition, if you like this, if you find it useful, I would appreciate it if you would like it down below. And last but not least, make sure to grab my free 47-page ebook on men's style. Okay, so this isn't so much about style today, but it's very much related because I get a lot of emails, a lot of people asking me, Antonio, can you help me? Antonio, can you give me advice here? Antonio, how are you doing this? How are you doing that? So I want to share with you guys one of my secrets and how I have managed to, I think, have a beautiful family, have a really hot wife. I mean, I've had so many great things happen to me in my life. And this is the one tip that whenever people often ask me, what one tip would you give somebody young or somebody old or somebody just struggling in order to get ahead, what would you do? And that one tip is to give it all away. And what do I mean by that? When I say give it all away, I mean I want you to be a giver. To, like that old Christmas saying, it's better to give than to receive. Take that to heart. And whatever talents you have, whatever skills you have, whenever you have some free time, and you're not going to just find this free time, you've got to make it. You've got to throw out that television. You've got to stop, pull yourself away. Whenever you are not doing what you have to do in life, you are finding ways to help others. You're finding ways to give of yourself and to be a go-giver. I was just reading this book, Go Givers Sell More, and it's about go-givers and sale, basically how to increase sales by giving more. And I would have to say, it's almost sounds a bit manipulative, especially to some people who think sales are a bad word. But at the end of the day, you are selling yourself most of the time. You are trying to get a better job. You're trying to find perhaps the perfect mate. You're wanting to sell your daughter on the fact that, yes, it is smart to go to bed when I ask you to, not to want to stay up all night and eat candy and watch cartoons, which is my battle almost every night at 8 p.m. But no, when you give everything you have, and I'm not talking about all your earthly possessions, I'm not talking about becoming a monk here, but I am talking about instead of always asking for things, instead of always thinking that you deserve things, going out and trying to help others, going out and invoking basically the law of reciprocity. Have you ever heard of this? It's basically when you give something to somebody, they in turn want to give something back. And this is seen across cultures. That's why whenever you travel, it's always great to have a whole bunch of little trinkets, little gifts, which it may not mean anything, but you'll find that when you give something to somebody, no matter how insignificant, they are going to repay it. When you give your hand for a handshake, most of the time, unless it's Donald Trump, they're going to give you their hand right back, and they're going to shake it. And so you need to be the first person to, if you're visiting someone's home for the first time, one thing, a tradition I really enjoy is bringing in bread and salt. It's a kind of a Eastern European thing. But when you bring in maybe a bottle of wine, I like to bring local things when I go visit my friends in Chicago. We have homemade maple syrup here. I have Newski's meat, some of the best bacons and hams in the world, right here in my town. So I'll take these things with me. Not so much the hams because you got to keep them refrigerated, but the maple syrup is a great gift to give people because it's homemade. It's very unique. And it just sets everything on the right. I mean, the whole weekend we're being treated like kings because I spent, $10 to buy some extra maple syrup. You can see where I'm going with this. And I want to let me go ahead and give you a quick story. Back in 1985, Mexico City had a huge earthquake, and it was really, really bad. Thousands of people died, and there was money coming in from all over the place. And of all places, Ethiopia sent Mexico money. Now, Ethiopia was going through a lot of hardship of its own. In fact, it was going through a famine. Thousands and thousands more people were dying in Ethiopia and had been for the last year because of just the weather and a famine going through than had happened in Mexico. So people were kind of perplexed as to why was Ethiopia sending money to Mexico when they had their own problems. And they asked the gentleman in the government, why did they transfer over this money? And he straightened himself up and he said, when Ethiopia was invaded by Italy during World War II, Mexico came to our aid. And that's a great example of the law of reciprocity. It doesn't matter how many years go by, people remember when you sincerely give of yourself and you give to them whatever you can give. It doesn't have to always be money. Money is nice. It's it's something that's pretty universal and can be applied to things. But your time, your just clothing. There are so many things that you can give. Your talents. All of us have a unique talent. So find a way. If you want to get a hold of someone that's in a higher position at a company, or let's say you really want, you see somebody and you aspire to be like them, well, if you go to them and you're asking, you're probably like the hundreds of other people that they get every month who are asking for their time, asking to take them out to coffee to pick their brain. I hate that expression. I don't have that time. I've got 3 kids. I've got a wife. But if you come to my company and you really give of yourself, and let's say you've got a talent with, I don't know, analytics, or that you've got a talent with, a whole lot of people in this industry, it really doesn't have too much to do with mine, but you have seen how they've applied this, and you've prepared this information that will help me look at my company differently, or perhaps you just, I get a nice handwritten letter, and you have made. I had one gentleman. He knows who he is. He sent me some beautiful music that he made, and I don't know. It was really nice. I was listening to it just last night. My wife comes in and she's like, "Oh, what are you listening to?" And I told her that this is some music. A gentleman who watches my videos sent me, and he made it himself, and that's really cool. And he, Wolf, you know who you are. And it's awesome music. And I love it because here I feel really a deep connection to this person. Again, I'm going to end with one more story. And it was, I was up talking with my wife again last night. It was about this gentleman who recently passed away in Iowa City. And I knew of him. I went to school with his son at Cornell College in Mount Vernon, Iowa. And this man had a history of being a go-giver. And I think what really struck and what made him a gentleman is that he was the kind of guy that would give to people that there was no way they could ever repay him. And here's a story I really love because literally I was reading through all these people that left comments, kind of like his online obituary, and there were all these amazing stories. I hope whenever my time comes that I will have this type of an influence on people. But this was the story. So there was this little girl, this woman, now she's a grown woman with her own kids, but she talked about how he changed her outlook on one day when she was like 5 or 6 years old. She fell and she knocked her tooth out. And she was walking across the college campus. Her mom, I guess, worked there. And she ran into this gentleman and she was crying. She was bleeding a little bit here in the mouth. And she was just so upset, she told him, because the tooth fairy was not going to reward her because she had lost her tooth. And he picks her up. He sits her on his lap and he says, I got to tell you a secret. And he pulled her in close and he said, I'm the tooth fairy. And I know that your tooth, you lost it and it was an accident. And because you've been so brave, he pulled out $5. And the woman talked how for years she really believed he was the tooth fairy. And it changed her entire day, changed her entire week. And she talked about this like she could remember this day. It was so imprinted on her and had a positive influence on her life. And the amazing part is there were thousands of people that I know this guy had this effect on because he was always looking to give of himself. And he didn't know where it was going to take him. But I can tell you that he was a big man. He was a heavyweight wrestler at the University of Iowa. He also played on the football team back in I think it was the 50s or the 60s. This was a big guy, but he was so small compared to the reputation he built up of himself. So if you want to get ahead in life, guys, give of yourself, give away everything you've got, and be a go-giver. All right, this has been Antonio Centeno with Real Men, Real Style. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.